So this time, Pauline, we put some evidence together to have a look at, because it kind of really needs to be defined before you, the senators, who are defined in the Constitution, right? Now, the Constitution was defined in debates of federation and forged and created the Commonwealth of Australia and came to being on the 29th of July 1900. It was then put into action, Pauline, and the country was incepted on the 1st of January 1901 and then inaugurated some months later. So this didn't occur without a constitution, Pauline. And we all know this. So let's have a quick look at some of this background evidence, Pauline. It's history, it's who we are, it's what you lie about in the Parliament on a daily basis, and we're going to hit it on the head in as sweet and quick a way as possible. Okay, so what you see before you is Quick and Garron's annotated constitution. Now, you're more than welcome to go and look that up and discover quite a few things in your Parliament that you don't follow at all. Okay, so Quick and Garron covered the Constitution after the debates, and the annotated Constitution sits side by side with the Constitution as the spirit of that law, Pauline, the spirit of that law, at which you only adhere to the letter of that law, don't you, Pauline? The letter of that law. See, we're going to play your game now. The letter of that law, Pauline. We're just going to repeat what we say, because that's how to drum it into someone's mind. Drum it into someone's mind, Pauline. Affirmations of the preamble. It will be noticed that the preamble to this Constitution contains no less than 8 separate and distinct affirmations or declarations. In the preamble, Pauline, noted by Quick and Garron in the annotated Constitution as actually existing. But it's not actually a preamble, because it's not actually worded like a preamble, is it, Pauline? It's the words of the Constitution Act itself. Okay, so 1, the agreement of the people of Australia. Obviously, we went to debates of federation and we decided all that stuff, didn't we? Right. 2, the reliance on their blessing of Almighty God. Their reliance on establishing a shrine of remembrance, stone of remembrance, and King's Domain, Pauline. Their reliance on a God, King, and country, Pauline. God, King, country, Pauline. This is the lineage that we get from the blessing of Almighty God, Pauline. So this is Quick and Garron in 1890s, knowing this stuff. And do Australians know this stuff today at all? No, Pauline. This is the stuff you brainwashed out of them. Right. So 3, the purpose to unite. 4, the character of the union, an indissoluble union. It can't be dissolved, Pauline. It can't be removed, Pauline. It's an indissoluble trust with God, Pauline. Right? That's the purpose of the unity, is a trust in God under the blessing of Almighty God in an indissoluble trust, Pauline. Right? The form of that union, a federal commonwealth. Right? A federal commonwealth, an indissoluble federal commonwealth, Pauline. Right? The dependence of the union under the crown. God, King, and country, Pauline. God, kingdom, and country, Pauline. Now, we kind of covered Statute of Westminster 931, and I'm not here to give you a history lesson. You should already know this stuff that you don't teach the kids in this country. Okay? They should all know this stuff, but they don't. The government of the union under the Constitution. God, King, and now we're at the country part, the Constitution, Pauline. And then 8, the expediency of provision for admission of other colonies as states, Pauline. The expediency, of other colonies as states, Pauline. Not just the 6 states that are on the mainland that were colonies and not like full state boundaries, right? And we need to address what a boundary is, Pauline. So we can't address that here, we'll move on. But what we can see here is, Pauline, that our forefathers knew exactly what they had founded, how and where. Okay, and then it's established in the Constitution that it's under the crown of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, right? And they set these boys off to World War One. We called them Australian Imperial Forces, and then they went to Giza, the Giza Plateau, Pauline, Egypt, Pauline, where all that spiritual stuff is, Pauline, before they went into Beersheba, Pauline, where all the other spiritual stuff is, Pauline. And they played battle games, Pauline, right, for an Australian Imperial Force that became the Anzac. And they were given orders in 1915 to go off into Beersheba and Gallipoli. And they sacrificed tens of thousands of men, Pauline. Tens of thousands of men, right? And what you don't understand is they flew this red ensign when they went into battle as light horsemen, Pauline. They didn't fly a government flag. They weren't the government. They were the people of the land that maintained and had a government. And that government they had flew a blue ensign with 6-pointer on it, right? And their land forces flew a red ensign. And we're not talking about a government here. We're talking about naval. Aren't we, Pauline? We're talking about a naval flag. That was Australia's first naval flag, the blue ensign, wasn't it, Pauline? And the flag that was flown on Parliament, that was this red ensign that you see in this picture that everyone kind of paints over and makes grey and black and white and doesn't really show the actual true history of this country that's actually painted in a painting, Pauline. I'm full aware of this. There's the Union Jack and all those red ensigns of those Australian Imperial Forces there on the ground in front of the Parliament, Pauline. All opening the Parliament there, Pauline, right? And this is the other side of history that people don't want to realise. There's an Aboriginal that we call King Billy, and there are quite a few King Billys. Don't mistake them all together as one King Billy, Pauline. But we're looking at a man who came from a tribal region, and he's proud for this Parliament to exist. He's holding a red ensign in his hand, Pauline. This is a government and a war machine that defended his right to be a tribe, sovereign and independent from this government, Pauline. So he's appearing here in a diplomatic status, and he's respectful of that red ensign for some reason, Pauline. Why would he be respectful of that red ensign, Pauline? And then time comes along, and this Queen decides she's going to turn up on our soil in 1954, right? And she's going to take command of this government. And she goes around the country to almost all the states, not all of them, but she goes and opens parliaments, reopens parliaments in a new line of authority, Pauline. A new line of authority, Pauline. A St Edward's crown, Pauline. Not an Australian imperial crown, Pauline. So you can see the Queen here marching up those very same steps, Pauline, and the flags are not the same out the front, Pauline. You can see that very starkly, Pauline. And this Aboriginal man, he turned up for the Queen's visit, right? And everyone was handing out red ensigns. And he's got his grandchild here holding a red ensign. This 1954, Pauline. Right, and on the right-hand side, there's the Queen. In the same book, Pauline. In the same book, Pauline. This is evidence, Pauline. Evidence, Pauline. This is how you talk as politicians, isn't it? This is evidence, Pauline. Evidence, Pauline. Evidence. This is right in front of your face, Pauline. Right in front of your face. So you can't excuse this stuff, Pauline. We're looking at an Indigenous population that lived in harmony with a white Australia under an Anzac red ensign. And you've come along since 1954 when you reopened all these parliaments, right? See, so these Anzac and these Aborigines, they died together on a battlefield, Pauline. Died together on a battlefield, Pauline. And you don't want to tell that history. That history doesn't exist because what are you? You're a foreign curial power that came in this land to lie about their education in 1939 treaties, Pauline. This is what you did. You came to lie to these people and my people, right? Whereas at World War One, they fought next to each other and defended this land so that they could be sovereign next to each other on the same land, Pauline. On the same land, Pauline. On the same land, Pauline. And then you brought this Flags Act 1954, didn't you, Pauline? And you took down that red ensign and that blue ensign of a naval fleet, and you put your blue ensign on the government here, and then put a white peace military sign on a naval fleet. Like military peacetime war machine that commits war crimes, Pauline. Military peacetime war machine that commits war crimes, Pauline. That's not very peacetime, is it? That's actual fraud and a criminal action at law, isn't it, Pauline? You know, and you've turned a good people that used to live next to each other and recognise each other's sovereignty and defend each other's sovereignty and be happy with each other and trade with each other and let each other move around a land freely. And then in 1967 you came along with your fences and your postcodes and you chomped it all up and sold it all off. Yeah, continuing to do that now when the towns around the country are divvying up the last of the lots of land that they can acquire or assume in their towns to sell them all off for a profit. Right? To pay this debt machine off. Isn't that right, Pauline? Isn't that right how you undermine the people this way? Right? And the sad fact of it is here we have a Flags Act, right, Pauline? And in 2022 you went to an election and you all played comical clown show in the election, not realising the treason that you were all committing while you're playing this absolute clown show. Okay? Because Craig Kelly got embroiled by Rodney Culleton. Right, we have Craig Kelly's little master mining man, Clive Palmer, fisting all the cash forward for this too, Pauline. You got to understand that these people aren't interested in the Australian public. They're interested in their mining deals and those sorts of things, aren't they, Pauline? That's why they push these sorts of propaganda-y type things on the people, but don't realise the treason that they're committing in the process of doing it, Pauline. Okay? Now, Craig Kelly flew a flag, and I had evidence of Craig Kelly doing this, but I currently have evidence of Rod Culleton doing it. Let's just go through this because I have more evidence on Rod Culleton than I do on Craig Kelly. And this evidence just needs to be shown to you. See? So we have a queen that walks up the steps. We have a queen that sits there at a desk in a book. We're the Aboriginal twice now, at the opening of Parliament 1927 holding a red ensign, and at the change of Parliament 1954 holding a red ensign. And we have Flags Act 1954 changing that red ensign. Right? So where did this civil merchant flag come from? Okay, we know where it came from. It's a change of that 6-pointed star to the 7. But we move forward. See, Rodney came into the Senate just like you, Pauline, just like all these other senators, Rennick, Pauline, Babette, Pauline, all these other senators, Pauline. So you got me talking like a senator, Pauline, all these other senators, Pauline, and they came and took an oath, didn't they? They came and took an oath. They took an oath to who? They didn't take an oath to the Constitution, Pauline. They didn't take an oath to the Constitution at all, Pauline. They took an oath to a foreign curial power in administration of that Constitution, Pauline. And here we have Rodney Culleton's oath, don't we, Pauline? And it's exactly the same wording as your oath, isn't it, Pauline? Exactly, to the letter, exactly the same wording, except the line of authority in that crown, in that queen, is not the same line of authority defined in the Constitution, is it, Pauline? Totally separate line of authority and crown as defined in the actual Constitution, where those Anzac laid down 62,000 lives so that we may be free, only to be enslaved, technically enslaved, Pauline, at international law for the last 70 plus years by this foreign curial power that was brought here by this queen. Right? And we have evidence of Rodney taking this oath, because there's the picture on the screen, Pauline. But the irony, Pauline, here's Rodney Culleton holding the red ensign, while he's under oath to the blue ensign, Pauline. These two different realms, two different kings, two different kingdoms, two totally different stones, Pauline. And this is the reality, because he is under oath here on the screen to the Stone of Destiny and King Charles III. Because that oath doesn't die, Pauline. Once you've taken that oath, it remains for the rest of your life. You haven't taken another oath to somewhere else, have you? You're still under oath to that. Okay, and Rodney Cullerton, 10 years later, through court or whatever, still under oath to that, whether he realises it or not. And then you've got Craig Kelly under oath to that. And then everyone that used this red ensign under oath to that. Okay, two different realms. So tell me where treason comes into play, Pauline. Tell me technically where this act of treason comes into play when you're willing to fly the flag of another kingdom. That's kind of ironic kind of point, isn't it? When you got Craig Kelly, Rodney Cullerton, Bossy, all flying flag of foreign kingdom, all trying to manipulate politics with it in a foreign realm. It was a disgrace to God, Pauline. Disgrace to your Commonwealth, Pauline. Disgrace to your Anzac, Pauline. Disgrace to your kingdom, Pauline. Just total disgrace, Pauline. Disgrace to your king, Pauline. Total disgrace, Pauline. And how do we know all of this occurred? Well, we can see this same flag here on this postcard, Pauline, from 1908, when this great white fleet arrived and defined the peace between Aborigine and white Australia on the land. And then said, here's this peace agreement, the Hague Conventions. Do you all agree to this? And everyone went, yeah, that's cool. That sounds like some pretty good rules for the world to obey by. We'll sign into that stuff. Right? And the Great White Fleet went, woo, we've got them signed into the Hague Conventions. They'll pay their debts and not go to war. That's a good thing for everyone. Under the red ensign, Pauline. Under the red ensign, Pauline. So it wasn't technically you and your government that sat down at a peace treaty in 1907 that brought Hague Conventions around, is it? You're the administrator inside the Hague Conventions. Hague 4, War on Land, Article 55, administrator under the rules of usufruct. Now, if you're that administrator, Pauline, and you're inside that Hague Conventions, then you must be liable to every single word that's in it. Every single word, Pauline. Every single word. Every single word, Pauline. Every single word. That's where we come to. Have some evidence of some Aborigines flying a Commonwealth flag, Pauline. Have some evidence of Peace Treaty 1907, Pauline. Have some evidence of some treason by Rodney Cullerton, Pauline, and Craig Kelly, Pauline. Have some evidence of how they manipulated the Parliament with the Aborigine, Pauline, and lied to them, Pauline. Lied to them, Pauline. They lied to the Aborigine, Pauline. Lied to the Aborigine, Pauline. Brought them into Craig Kelly's office, Pauline. Played manipulated war games in Craig Kelly's office, Pauline, with foreign flags from foreign realms, Pauline, committing treason in the Parliament, Pauline, while under oath, Pauline, while under oath, Pauline. That's kind of disrespectful to God.